Strictly music, only music, and nothing else. And I have another album here today to review. And this particular album by this particular artist, I found it quite surprising and overall very enjoyable. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into Cash Cobain. Play Cash Cobain. And track number 1, Slizzy Honcho Don, featuring Don Toliver and your boy Quavo. Track 1, joined by Quavo and Don Toliver. Cash definitely has his own lane. This is not a bad way to open up a project at all. The beat on this is nasty, as I expect them to be from Cash, who is known for that production. And on this track, it's not wasted at all. Don fits in neatly, so big ups to Don. Quavo also added a bit to the track, but Don really pushes that track over the top for me. And that was track 1, Slizzy Honcho Don. Now track 2, Rump Punch. Track 2 is insane. This got some serious bounce to it. Cash's flow on this takes it to another level for me, as he shows some of his rapping ability on this track, and we are carried out by another great beat. Cash is really a double-edged sword, as he also does a lot of his own beat making, his own production. So to be able to showcase a bit of rapping ability and have the beat carry out, just to emphasize, hey, I also can do this on the back end, that's a double-edged sword. That's a very dangerous artist, very, very talented man. Now track 3, All I Wanna Hear. The beat is carrying Cash a bit on this track, but that's not a real critique for Cash, considering he's behind majority of his beats. So sometimes he does take a backseat, and just to show his beat making ability, which you can't entirely blame. But if we're listening to a rap project or any project, we do want more of the artist. And on track 3, the beat carries him majority of the track. It was a great beat though. Typical Cash track, no complaints here. Very enjoyable classic Cash. The beat did majority of the legwork on track 3, All I Wanna Hear. Now track 4, Dunk Contest, another classic Cash track, and it works. Track 4 works. This project is laced with vibes, 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 and more vibes. Very smooth, digestible beats, accompanied by Cash laid back, choppy flow. This track and the ones before it are very digestible, which makes them even more enjoyable. They're almost like comfort food. These are very digestible, very smooth, very enjoyable tracks. You don't gotta strain your ears or nothing. You can just have this rocking and rolling and put the vibes in the air. So track 4, Dunk Contest, another classic Cash Cobain track. And that's not bad at all. Some may even say that's great. So track 5, Can't Sleep / Drunken Love. The sample flip on this is insane. It's crazy. I like how this track starts. The lyrics on the first half of this project leaves a bit to be desired, however, and then the beat switches completely. Still not much content, as the beat takes the main stage, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. As I said before, Cash is known for both his production and his music ability in terms of rapping and harmonizing and things like that. But on a track like this, track 5, he just completely leaves everything on the table in terms of rapping ability and leans very, very, very hard on this beat, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I gave him grace when he did this initially, and I don't want to see this all the way throughout. They also have an instrumental version of this album, so I don't see the reason why it needs to be so little content in terms of lyrics on some of these tracks. If you want to showcase the beat, I mean, you made an entire secondary version of this project solely for the beats. So I wanted a bit more cash on that. I do like the sample flip. I like the beat a lot. It's just not enough content on there for me to really grade it in a way based on the artist. I would be grading it more so on the beat. And if we want to get into that this is strictly music, only music and nothing else, and instrumentals do count as music, clearly we can go ahead and get into the instrumental version of this project if we would like. But as of right now, seeing that we're on the version with cash on it, I want to hear a bit more cash, just a bit more cash. Don't double it up. Don't make an instrumental version and then on the regular project you got some songs that are 80% or 90% instrumental. So that's my critique for track 5, and that was Can't Sleep / Drunken Love. Now track 6, Problem by Cash, Cobain, and Layla, featuring Black, Anicia, Big Sean, Chow Lee, Don Q, Fabulous, Flea, Flo Milli, Cali, Kenzo B, Lay Banks, Lil Tyler, Rob 49, and Y&J. This track has about 15 features on it. I feel the beat was so crazy, everybody wanted a piece, and everybody wanted to really attack this beat as best as they could. This is a battle for the top spot, but there are a few features that could have been left off of this. The length of this track makes this very risky, and the weaker features really emphasize just how long this track is. Very, very interesting lineup though. Big ups to Cash. I don't think you see some of these artists ever work together in any other setting. You got Fabulous with Anicia and Kenzo B and Black with Y&J. So I don't think you see these artists working together in any other settings, and I know that they really respect him for putting them in the conversation with some of these other guys, but a lot of these features could have been left off. Some of these artists don't really mesh, and they do their own thing, and it kind of takes away from the track. The weaker features definitely should have been removed, just in an attempt to get a more cohesive track. In my opinion, keep Black, Big Sean, Fabulous, Lil Tyler, and Chow Lee, and everyone else is optional. The length isn't so much the problem, it's the inability of some of the features to perform or fully capitalize on the beat that reminds you that this song is long, and then it takes away from the whole track. So again, in my opinion, keep Black, keep Big Sean, keep Fabulous, keep Lil Tyler, keep Chow Lee, and it's up for debate which one had the best verse on there. I like Fabulous's verse. I like Lil Tyler's verse a lot. If you can go ahead and keep those 6 and those 5 and get rid of everyone else, I think this track hits a lot harder. Some of these features come in and don't do much, and they just remind you that, dang, this track is very long. I don't think some of them added much. I don't think Rob 49 added very much. I don't think Cali added very much. I don't think Flea. I don't think Lay Banks. I don't think Don Q. I don't think a lot of them added very much. Y&J had his own agenda on this track. I'm a big fan of Anicia, but she didn't need to be on here with all these other features. Maybe isolate her on a different track, because I do like how she sounds with Cash and on Cash's beats. Isolate her on a different track and you get a lot more mileage out of her, because she is a talented artist. But this is just jam-packed, and it clashes at certain points to let you know that this song is very long. This made me feel like I was listening to it for an hour, even though it's nowhere near an hour long. Now track number 7, and that was track number 6, Problem, featuring Cash, Cobain, and Layla, by the way, the one with the 15 features. I do encourage you to give that a listen and give me your thoughts down in the comments. Now track number 7, Slizzy Poetry Interlude, featuring Vontae the Singer. This track is an interlude, definitely the weakest track thus far, but it being an interlude, you do give it a bit of grace. Definitely the weakest track so far though, but it's an interlude, so we'll kind of just put that on the shelf, and we'll continue to move on. I think the interlude title, we've heard great interludes on projects in the past, just isn't one of them. But shout out to Vontae, shout out to Cash. It's still dope to an extent, but definitely the weakest track so far, as we're 7 tracks in. Now track 8, Turks (parentheses I apologize). I like this track a lot. Big fan of this. Now we are back in business with the Cash sound, and I like how he has his vocals on this. It adds more to the track for me. Very short length, but Cash's songs often are when he's alone. His tracks are often very short. So track number 8, Turks, parentheses, I apologize. That was dope. Now track 9. And track 9 is What's Up, Where You At, WYA. Another good song, definitely carried by the beat. Cash does show up, however. Nothing stands out particularly about this track either. The beat is the real meat and potatoes of this track. So 8 and 9, nothing to really write home about. Then we get to track 10, which is Message to You. Definitely a much stronger track than the previous. This is a whole different type of mood. This is the sound that almost created the whole subgenre of rap that Cash is now in, and you can make the argument that he did create that genre, which he refers to as slizzy drill or sexy drill. And this is rare form Cash, and I'm a big fan of how the beat comes in and how it carries us out. So this, if you were to say play Cash Cobain and you just want to encapsulate who he is as an artist and his sound, track number 10, Message to You, would do that for you. Now, track 11, Dunk. Did not expect that from Cash at all. He boosts the energy up all the way on this track, and this is a nasty, nasty sample flip. He flips the famous She Got a Dunk by Soulja Boy. Shout out Soulja Boy. And it's unexpected and well received. Cash shows he has more in his bag than just that very laid-back, dream-like, choppy sound we know him for. He reached in that bag and pulled something else out that I was surprised with, and I rocked with that a lot. That's going to be getting a lot more burn from me when I go outside and function. I'm going to tell him to play Cash Cobain. I'm going to tell him. I'm going to say put Dunk on. Let's see how it rings out. Let's see how it rings out in the function. You know, I like to get some of these tracks to function test. Let me put it on in the function and see if it rings. And I think that might ring out in the function. And that was track 11, Dunk. Now track 12, Love It. Another pleasant surprise with almost a dancehall style Afrobeat type of track from Cash. So he's digging in his bag at this point. At the tail end of this project, a song like this pushes the entirety of the project to another level. It lets you know that this man is very, very talented, to say the least. So we are starting to recover from those 2 tracks where I felt like it wasn't really much to write home about. Track 8 and 9, track 10, track 11, and track 12. Really, track 11 and 12 is where he really gets it back. Track 10 was, him getting back on his feet. But track 11 and 12 is when he starts to push the agenda. And I like that. Track 12, Love It. I may even have it in top 5 contention for the whole project. I'm a big fan of that. Him getting on an almost dance hall Afrobeat style instrumental and doing his thing. And he did well. I can see this being played in a lot of different areas, and that's going to help him out in his career, having that versatility. So I encourage him, and I would love to see him continue down that road. Now, track 13, Me and Payroll, featuring Payroll NYC. Joined by Payroll NYC, we get right back to the classic Cash sound. And Payroll honestly adds a lot to this track. I wasn't familiar with Payroll, but after a track like this, I will be tuning into more from him. Another crazy beat, dope sample flip, and I'm always a fan when he lets the beat breathe and carry us out to the end of the track. So big ups to Payroll NYC. We'll be tuning into more Payroll, and I'm a fan of this. Now track 14, Slizzy Poetry, Part 2 interlude. Another interlude, very reminiscent of other tracks on here. Definitely a weaker track, but again, it's an interlude, so you give it grace. No more grace for the interludes, though. We gave grace for the first 2, so now we have to objectively grade. No more grace for the interludes. No more grace for the interludes. Definitely a more weaker track, and that is the last time we will be giving grace for any weaker tracks. No more. That's that. Track 15, For Sure, featuring Bass Swag. This is the mainstream smash. However, I don't believe it's the best track on this project. Still a good track, joined by Big Swag. Big ups to both on this track. Classic Cash, and when the bass kicks in, it brings in a whole nother element. It's a very good track. Not really any bad tracks on this project per se, with the exception of the interlude and how some of them may sound similar or a bit repetitive, but there's no quote-unquote bad track on this project. So far, we are 15 tracks in, and there's a lot to be said about the fact that there's nothing just concretely bad. Even the ones you think may not be good, they're up for debate to say, nah, they actually might be. So that is something to be said. 15 tracks in is not a lot of bad tracks. I would say there may be some skips, because you may not want to hear certain sounds over and over. But that doesn't make the track bad if you isolate it as an individual track. If you grade it as a project, you may say this track is weaker than the other. But a definitively bad track, I would say those fall more to the interludes. And again, we gave all the grace that we can give them being interludes. So I am a big fan of For Sure with Bass Swag, and that beat carries us out, and I'm a huge fan of that. I like when he lets the beat breathe and carry us out. I don't like when he lets the beat do all the heavy lifting, but if you want to let it carry us out after you're done doing the work, why not? Now, track 16, Act Like. Another great sample flip. I'm feeling this a lot. Another classic Cash track. It's his usual bag, but he gets in it deep, and I'm feeling this. I wouldn't say it's one of the best songs on the project, but it's a smash. You know, it's a smash for sure. It's something that you can play. It may not be in top 5 contention, but it may be top 10. Maybe top 10, maybe top 8. So it's good. Now, track 17 I found interesting because he was joined by 4 Bats, and if you know anything about 4 Bats, you know 4 Bats has an interesting style, and that's why we like 4 Bats. So he's joined by 4 Bats. I like how Cash comes in on this track initially. That adds a lot to the track for me, how he opened up his first verse. I liked that. I wanted him to keep that going. I really like that. And I like the hook on this. I think Cash actually edges out 4 Bats on this track, which is no easy task, once again showing how talented an artist like Cash Cobain truly is. I have yet to see a feature completely dominate him on any of these tracks, especially considering that he has a 15 featured track on this project. I mean, you do the math. I haven't seen him be dominated on any track by any of these features. He wants his respect. He wants his spot. And for a rainy day, if a feature does ever happen to eclipse him, he made the beat. So he has it sewed up in terms of his respect when he gets on these features. And for him to get the edge over 4 Bats on track 17, I think that's a huge accomplishment. And on track 17, Candle, 4 Bats, and Cash Cobain. I got Cash Cobain. 4 Bats did add a little bit, but I feel like Cash turned him into a genuine feature. And that is someone like 4 Bats, for example, who can run off with a track if you allow him to, because he's just so interesting as an artist and he has a good sound. But Cash said, no, you're here to be a feature and you're going to be a feature. I'm going to carry the load of this track. And he did exactly that. So I give him extra points for that, for not folding to any of these features on here. I think the best feature on here may be Payroll NYC. I'm a big fan of that Payroll NYC track, but Cash stood up to every single feature on here, and this is a feature-packed project. One song has 15 features on it. And even in any instance, whether it's that song or any instance where these artists were on the track with him, I still think Cash holds his own, and that says a lot. Now, track 18, Some Shit. Track 18 was okay. I like track 18. Let's see how we feel about track 18, Some Shit. Because when grading Cash, you have to grade it in a certain way. I'm a big fan of Cash when he raps straight through and kind of runs through the beat, like he does on this track. Easily one of my favorite flows from Cash, with the dope voiceover outro at the end. This is a dope track. I like when Cash runs straight through the beat. and that was track 18, some shit. Now track 19, Baddest in the Room, and another classic Cash track to close out the project, and you can't be mad at that at all. Just another classic Cash track. So here's what I will say about Cash Cobain, Play Cash Cobain. It's a 19-song project. When you hear me say classic Cash, classic Cash, classic Cash, that is me saying it sounds like Cash. Sounds like a classic Cash song. I do feel 19 songs may be a bit long for this, because you do have so many of those songs that do blend. I think this project could be a bit shorter, and it pushes it even further. I don't think there's any particularly bad tracks on here. I do think that not all of these tracks need to be on the same project. I think you can shorten this track and then make it a deluxe at a later date to give it extra boost. And I do like how they have an instrumental version of this track. So when it comes to Cash Cobain, Play Cash Cobain, I think that the entirety of this project is very, very dope. I think the length betrays it just a little bit. These songs are most of the time very short, and you stack them to the brim with a bunch of 2-minute songs, which is not bad. But some of these songs do tend to blend together when you play them in concession like that, when you play them back to back. I think you chop this track just a bit smaller and you deluxe it, so we can digest the first part, and then you can let the rest out of the vault, so it doesn't seem like they mesh, because sometimes these tracks do feel like they mesh. So when you hear me say it's classic Cash, you've heard me say that throughout the entirety of this review. It's all of those ones that I say classic Cash for, they have a very similar sound and a very sound reminiscent of the tracks before it or the tracks that may come after it. And those are the ones that need to be separated just a bit more. He does a good job of separating them. I like how he holds his own against the features. I like how he showcases his rapping ability. And I like how he has the ability to make the beats as well. Cash Cobain is a very, 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 very talented artist. A very talented artist. I don't know if he's an artist that I need to listen to 19 songs straight through, but he's very, very talented. And I feel like he does his best work when you isolate tracks and you let him work a single track. I don't know if he's an album artist. I don't know if I need an album from Cash. This was very reminiscent of like a production album, like how Metro does it, how Khaled does it, how Mustard does it. The only difference is Cash was rapping a lot, kind of like how Pierre Bourne does, where he's a producer, but he raps on his own beats and he raps a lot. But the diversity sometimes is lost. And unlike some of these other producers, you're not packing every single track out with features to kind of give it the much needed water and the much needed splash on the face to wake up the listener. Sometimes it's just Cash, and that's not bad. Classic Cash is good Cash. But I think this project can be a little bit shorter, and it would push it over the edge. I think 10 solid songs from Cash, and then you deluxe the other 9. I think it puts this project in a different conversation. But I say all that to say I thoroughly enjoyed Cash Cobain, Play Cash Cobain, and there are some songs on here that I would be playing again. Love it. I love that song a lot. Rump Punch, fire. So he does have some smashes on here. And with track 6 Problem, you have 15 unique artists that you wouldn't see in any other setting. That Cash came through and he, put everybody together. Who knows the opportunities that came out of that. So shout out to Cash for that. Me and Payroll featuring Payroll NYC. I rock with Payroll NYC on that track. I'm gonna tune into more Payroll. So this project did a lot, but it could be a bit shorter in my opinion. And we decide everything in the court of public opinion here. And we decide everything based on strictly music, only music, and nothing else. So you tell me how you feel. But Cash Cobain, Play Cash Cobain, I say Play Cash Cobain. This project is flames, flames, flames. Cut it in half and give me 2 meals. And I'm playing Cash Cobain. Strictly music, only music and nothing else. Go get that. Go get